Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another interview. Today, I'm joined by 5-0 Pro Minister Dixon. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, how's things? Obviously, 5 days out. It's only last Friday. You had some performance, some first round finish. How is things after that? And
Um,
how do you feel about your recent performance?
to be fair, I actually feel quite flat about it. I don't know if maybe I had higher expectations of myself in the fight, but I haven't had that like massive like rush. I was very happy I won. As you saw, like, I was very
Yeah,
surprised, but I haven't been over like my overall emotion hasn't been. I haven't felt like I've showed it off almost. I've just been quite chilled about it. Like I went straight back to training. Um, yeah, so I'm happy I won, obviously, and I'm happy that it's taken me to 5-0. But I don't know if it's almost another disappointment in myself in my performance, or the fight wasn't what I expected it to be. I'm not quite sure. I haven't pinned those emotions down yet, but it's not the answer that I guess most people expect.
absolutely not. Coming off, obviously, it's an impressive woman to beat. She was 7-0. Is it maybe? Do you think did you have it maybe go cleaner? It was a bit of a war. It was a war. It was a fight. Maybe did you think it was going to go a little bit cleaner? Obviously, I saw on your socials, you talking about not being able to spar and things like that. Is it the effects of maybe that on the back of it?
Um, Not particularly. I mean, sparring was hard because the bodies that we have at our gym aren't ideal for me.
Hmm.
So I do try my best in that sort of scenario. Um, yes, the fight wasn't clean, but James, who's my husband and my coach, knew that from the get go. Although he was not very obvious with that, he kind of hid it. She was the better striker, and he knew that. So we had three game plans: strike with her. If that doesn't work, go to like a grappling and wrestling exchange, which is where I'm quite natural. I just enjoy the boxing element of it. And then if all else fails, go to war. Um, and as I mentioned, she was kind of there from get go with an intent. Um, we think her mission was to basically just put me on my back foot and try and knock me out, um, which obviously didn't happen. But yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I can't quite pin it down. I've even not gone on crazy on food. Like I'm trying to stick my body weight down to a lower body weight so I can make 61 a lot easier.
Hmm. Maybe it's just fresh. Obviously, it's a big thing to get a big win, and maybe you're full of emotions in a couple of days. But and I also saw on your Instagram as well. You went through kind of what you thought was going to happen and how you and your coaches planned. I was going to ask you, did they surprise you at any point? But when I read that, it seems like you kind of saw, like you say, you had your game plan set out and you saw every path it could kind of go. So
Mm.
did you kind of had that read from the front, from the jump sort of thing?
We knew she had really good striking. Like that was very obvious from the footage that James had watched. Like he drilled that into me. She's got a beautiful one too, and we'd tried to train like offensive and counter work. But she was just better on the feet. I did expect her grappling to be a bit better through like the advice that James has given. She was all of her TKOs are from the floor, you know.
Yeah.
So it's not as if she had bad grappling. But as soon as I clinched up with her against that cage, I just knew I could take control. It was a very weird feeling. Like I knew that that was my game, and I knew that's where I was going to keep it. Like even if it went for a round two, that would have been the game plan for round two. Like get her to some point of control, if it be on the cage to take her down, or if it be a double leg, single leg. Um, but she hit hard. Like oh my god! I even said to myself, the camera's to my back at this point, but as I hit
Hmm.
the cage, where she's put me on my back foot and I circle off, I literally mutter, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, although I didn't get wobbled, and although I can truthfully say none of the shots hurt, I got hit so hard, and by a female that physically looked weaker than me in terms of her body structure. I didn't expect her shots to be that hard, and I very, very, very much so underestimated her power.
So it seems it was kind of flipped. You expected better from her grappling, and then you kind of thought her striking was going to be good, but the power that she possessed. It's kind of weird how that works. But do you feel like, obviously the way you seem about the fight, you don't sound too impressed with yourself, which is surprising to me because I was going to ask what sort of stuff do you think this does for your career? You're like, she was 7-0, she was probably destined for the UFC. She still could be completely. Surely this can only raise your stock, sort of thing, in this situation.
Um, I mean, I've had a lot more interest. Like I've had a few management people try and approach me prior to this fight, and a few more after. So it does tell that a lot more people are seeing me. You are right in to say that I am almost disappointed in my performance. I love my hands, I love my striking, and I generally thought I made many improvements in like the build up to this fight, whereby I could show my hands a little bit more. But that sort of hesitating and that relaxed, flat-footed self came into play for that first 2 minutes, and I couldn't let go. Um, so in a sense, yes, I am disappointed. I mean, all of my TKOs and knockouts are via my hands and my striking, um, in especially my amateur career. And I would like more people to see that now that I'm on a bigger platform. Um, so yeah, I am a little bit annoyed, I guess, that I couldn't show people my talents in my stand-up game. But as I said, my grappling is more natural and it's MMA. James perfectly said it, that you could be the jack of all trades but the master of none. Um, so I take that quote with the utmost sort of respect, in the sense that it is an MMA game and not just a boxing game or a kickboxing fight. And maybe it will come a little bit more in the next few days, but right now I just feel I want to improve my hands and show my next performance to be a better one.
Well, I'm sure finishing someone with 7-0 will bring the eye to people for your next performance. Like you say, over time, these things can grow. And I was also going to ask, a lot of things you say on Instagram, you were thanking a lot of your team and a lot of your preparation staff. Do you feel like you've kind of got that on lock now? Do you feel comfortable with the setup that you have going forward, going into fights and preparing the right way?
Yes, in terms of I'm comfortable with my routine. There are more ideal situations that I would like to be in. I would love to have morning training and then have the evening to rest. It's really hard to have your entire day of mix between training, client, and work, and then to go into 3 hours back to back training until 9:30 p.m. That is difficult. Unfortunately, our gym doesn't have the capabilities to have such a big team on a early morning mat. Um, I guess everything else is in place. I would like more females to train with, or lighter bodies. But you can't have it all, you know. And I mean, I've managed to make it this far with what I've got, and the team is building. So hopefully, in the next couple of months to year or so, I'll have those other elements that I wish in place.
Yeah, and do you ever just thought I'd ask, do you ever think about going to other gyms? Have you ever traveled to fight with other gyms and train under, with some different bodies? Like you say, if you haven't got many females in your gym that are your size, have you ever thought about going elsewhere just to travel to train with them for a little bit?
Um, to represent, no. I love my team. I love Lions Gym, and I feel like the classic saying, "Too many cooks spoil the broth,"
Of
almost.
course.
Um, I would literally say the coaches that we have at our gym are so ideal. And obviously, I seek my boxing elsewhere just because we don't have boxing at our gym at the moment. I have travelled to such gyms as Aspire, BST, um, ASW in Manchester to go and dip
Yeah.
different sparring elements in. Um, Unfortunately, they're just too far away, and I'm not in the most greatest of financial situations, so everything I do is always off mine and my partner's own finances.
Yeah.
And only recently we've got a few sponsors to help us out with, well, myself with certain elements of training. So to travel and take time away from other elements where finance and money is brought into the home is definitely hard.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah, and that's what I meant. I didn't mean leave your gym and change coaches completely. I
Ah,
just meant yeah, no, no, definitely not. Yeah, I just thought mixing it up. Like I say, most fighters usually do when they can get that in if they were struggling. And also I was going to ask, have you got a multi-fight deal with Erez, or is it just are you going to be fighting? You'll be fighting under with them again? Yeah,
yeah, so I have a 4 fight deal with them, or
lovely.
it's 18 months, depends on what's first.
Yeah,
Um, the next one should be a title fight, but at the moment, I don't know if you can see. Oh, my face
yeah.
is not the best. I've got a broken nose,
All
and I'm
right.
just
Okay.
waiting for the ENT department to call me back to see what's leaving me in terms of time for sparring.
Yeah.
And then I can get back to the promotion and let them know when I'm ready for that.
Oh,
Um,
so it's more of the medical side from the recovery than anything else.
yes, exactly. So yeah, hopefully the next fight's going to be a title fight. Um, I mean, there is a clause in my contract which allows me to go to the UFC. So UFC London is in March. I'm not saying that I'm due for that, but if the call was there, I would obviously love the opportunity. So I could be released from a contract of areas to go to the UFC if that was a current situation. And I mean, who wouldn't take it, you know?
Of course.
Um, well, Jordan Vacenik didn't, but
Apart from it, yeah. Apart from
yeah,
it,
apart from Jordan Vacenik, but he had his plan, you know, and he's a clever guy. So I mean, I think I would say yes at this point, especially discussing with my team being a female. The female level at the lower end of UFC isn't that great. So
hmm
I think potentially, yeah, there's that opportunity or the tight Aries title for the bantamweight belt.
yeah, absolutely. And do you think either way, even if you were to get the title fight first, it all seems like from now on, all paths leads to UFC right now. It feels like you're only 1 or 2 fights away, really, from I would say a call. Like I say, the woman that you just recently defeated was there. I'd say she was knocking on the door, really.
Yeah, it
And
was rumored that I found out after that the UFC was meant to be picking her up after this fight. Um, so see what happens there. I mean, she might need to improve her grappling a little bit before they make that call now. But yeah,
it's only right they to come to you first, really. If that's that, in my opinion. If you take her out, they've surely got to come to you first. But
hopefully.
also, this year, obviously, you've had quite a successful year, as successful as possible, really. And is there any goals that you had at the beginning of the year that you told yourself, "This is what I wanted to do. This is how active I wanted to be"? Is there any of the goals there that you feel like you've achieved?
Well, to be fair, at the start of this year, I actually didn't know if I was going to carry on pursuing MMA just because once I turned professional, in a year I had 1 fight, and it was only by luck and connection that I actually got into the Aries contract. Um, so it's very hard to say at this point that if there was anything back then that I've managed to achieve. Um, but for what I have achieved, I am thankful. And every time I get just that opportunity, it does motivate me to just do better on the next one and achieve as much as I can. I mean, I'm 31, so we'll see where it goes from the next, let's say, 8 to 9 years. And then, yeah.
Perfect. Well, it's great. And just lastly, I was going to ask where you look to go from here, but I feel like you've kind of already painted the picture. Do you want? Are you, would you be happy to stay as active as possible and then just go to the UFC back end of the year? Is next year the year that you want to try and break through if possible to the UFC?
Yeah. Obviously, there's a little bit of a rush. As I said, mentioning my age, my dogs are about to bark. I do apologize.
No, it's okay.
Um, so achieving as much as I can in the space that I've got left and the time that I've got left, is sort of my biggest desire at this present moment with my career in MMA. Um, it's hard to say I don't want to rush it because I feel that's all I've ever done with my MMA career because I started late. I started in 2016 with no background and kind of got into winter clubs, then amateur career, and then amateur career turned pro. Um, so yeah, it's just kind of seeing where it takes me itself. Hopefully, the right people are going to notice me, and 2023 is the year that I'm another English female in the UFC.
Absolutely, no doubt. First, we'll get Aries champion. If not, then we're straight into the UFC for 2023. Well, thank you very much, Melissa, for your time.
Thank
I look
you.
forward to see you in action, and I can't wait to see what's to come.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.